Greetings, everyone. This is the Hipster Snek, and joining me today for this most excellent episode of the Tomodachi Bros podcast is my good fellow Master Dietaku.
Contrary to popular opinions, I am not, in fact, a wayfish Victorian, Ute.
Yes. There have been a lot of strange...
character, basically.
Yeah... there's a lot of misconceptions about Pugums, to be fair. Chiefly that they're, decent or hygienic or sentient.
Wait a second.
I kid. But no, today we are here to talk about a project, a most fascinating project. You see, we do stuff that isn't necessarily on the channel. I know, it's weird. We actually have lives out of the channel. It's craziness, I know. But we do. We do, and we've talked about a couple of them, but let us now turn the table over to Master Dietaku, because he will be spearheading this, because today we're here to talk about his work in progress. So, Master Dietaku, you control the floor.
Well, I did have a thing in nerd news.
Oh, do tell.
We actually were just talking about this. Apparently, Square Enix actually listened to the consumers. And so for the next, installment in the Final Fantasy VII remake that never ends, apparently they have decided that they are going to actually give Tifa back her figure that she had in the original game. Now,
and Italy's entire government shut down for the day.
Yeah.
If you know, you know. If you don't, I'm not explaining it.
And I mean, it's still up in the air, and I kind of have this running, a running bet with the professor here as to whether or not they're actually going to do a particular, what the heck, I'm just going to say it, whether or not they're actually going to kill Eris or not, because they've basically been trying to, it seems like they've been trying to, push her as a main character, which, honestly, I don't think they would do if they really weren't going to have her stick around. So I'm of the opinion that they're not going to do it, that they're going to chicken out. They're going to be like, oh man, we can't kill her because then the hot girl would be dead and that would be sad. So yeah, which kind of removes the entire impetus for Cloud to kind of move on and, progress with the rest of the story.
It's going to be an interesting problem because, the whole context for her dying is the fact that she has this particular necklace with this thing called the white materia, which is kind of a red herring plot point because everyone's like, oh, the white materia is like the anti-meteor and it will stop meteor from happening. And then that literally doesn't go anywhere because it fell into a kind of deep pool of water. So we never get it back again. And then you have to do all this other dumb stuff like the huge materia quest, which seriously, that was the worst part of Final Fantasy VII was the huge materia filler quest, because that's all it was. It was filler. It does not contribute anything. It does not move the plot forward, and every single step of it sucks. But, that's just my opinion.
I've never played 7. And honestly, it's one of those things where it's I really probably should just to get context, but at the same time, I'm I basically already know what happens. And I'm sorry, their Clockwork, I refuse to play 8.
I actually borrowed Cog's copy of 7. I actually remember this because I got a really, really bad case of the flu that weekend. And so I was like, this is my weekend. I'm just going to see this through. And barring a great deal of time spent on the Chocobo breeding minigame, I played through the game, And my response was basically, yeah, it's okay. It was okay. It was very, very, very okay. And I played 8 briefly at Cog's house because Cog owned a copy. And I was like, this is not okay. I think we could use this to torture suspected terrorists into telling us everything they know. Because bad game is bad. But, that's just whatever.
I am kind of the opinion that I really dislike this for everything else, but I don't know if you're familiar, the like theory that like basically 8 is everything after disc 1 is literally just Squall having like a weird like trip as he's bleeding out and dying.
Yeah, I've heard that theory, and I think it actually has pretty good legs to stand on.
Yeah, I think it actually has weight. Most times when they're like, people on the internet are like, oh, it's edgy, and then it's them in hell. It's like, no, it's just children being children, guys. Not everything is like some kind of metaphorical Pilgrim's Progress, like, you have to overcome these obstacles in order to reach heaven types of things, and which is funnier because none of you have read Pilgrim's Progress. I guarantee it. So it's a good book. Very long though. Very long and very, very kind of it's in that because it's so old, it's kind of got that weird archaic, verbiage to it. It uses a lot of words that we really don't use anymore.
Yeah.
And, it'll probably confound most Zoomers because, oh my gosh, there are words with more syllables than 2. But anyways, how about yourself? Do you have anything?
The only interesting thing I just learned about is the one bit of news about the Ninja Turtles that I've actually been excited about in a while is they're doing there's a particular I don't know if it's a mini series. I haven't actually been keeping up because I don't buy comics anymore. There's one particular series called the Saturday Morning Adventures, which is following in the direct continuity of the 87 series, plus or minus the Red Sky series. I genuinely cannot tell if those seasons are considered canon. Point is, they're doing a big crossover event, and they're going to have representative turtles from several other series show up. And I believe they announced it was Mirage Comics Leonardo, the 2012 CG series Michelangelo, the 2003 animated Donatello, and the Rise Raphael. Which is, it's interesting. I think it's really neat. Kind of like a big homage to all that has been up to this point. Because the Turtles are actually turning 40 this year. So that's really cool.
Is Raphael the one in Rise that is the big triangle man?
He's big. He's basically Sonic Boom Knuckles, yes. Except nowhere near as intelligent or insightful.
I was about to say, he was like actually the one that actually had an interesting like redesign.
Yeah, the others were basically the same, but with very minor modifications. And it's like the whole thing. Okay, here's my insight. I can't really call it a hot take, so I think a lot of people would actually agree with me. If your Ninja Turtles reboot makes them not blood brothers, it is destined to suck. Why? Because Saban's Next Mutation did this, and it sucked, and Rise of the TMNT did this, and it sucked. So we're batting 2 for 2. Science proves that 100% of the time, if they're not biological brothers, it's gonna suck. So, food for thought.
I hadn't considered that.
Yeah, because in every good turtle series, they are biological brothers from the same clutch of eggs. So I want all you creative types there at Viacom to take that into consideration before you screw it up yet again. Because that's kind of all you've been doing recently. But that's neither here nor there. That's all the nerd news I had.
I was about to say, I haven't been keeping up with turtles, but then again, I'm basically of the opinion with my, funny animals doing violent things series that I'm like, please, just for the love of God, Warner Brothers, don't do anything with the Thundercats. Just let it be.
It's okay to just stop. You obviously can't do it right, so don't do it at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a big ask, but like here we are begging them just to stop.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah. So, that being said, let us dive into today's topic, which is a little something that I have quoted several times here on the channel, known as Dietaku Man's amazing, guaranteed bestseller, 4.5 stars on Amazon with 5 million reviews, guaranteed, critical success. New York Times bestseller #1 for 18 weeks running. Battle Heart Heat.
Highly doubt, especially New York Times, because they're going to be like, entertaining read. We can't have that in our bestsellers section. Bestseller section is only for my sad modern fiction recounting of my time with my best friend who we explored our youth together as we both had terminal diarrhea cancer.
Oh, that's harsh.
And we had to bike across Colombia as my friend was dying of stage 6 terminal diarrhea cancer. He's like, I shouldn't eat these many beans, but I promised my grandmama that I would bike across Colombia. It was the last thing she did before we kicked her off the iceberg. And I'm like, Paco, you are so beautiful. It is so beautiful. So, yes. Yeah, it's the New York Times is like full of stuff like that, even more if it's, a young adult version of that. Like look up the Fault in Our Stars and the An Abundance of Catherines. The author who did that, I forget his name, but he basically writes what I would consider like the book equivalent of Oscar bait, where it's like it is really not anything entertaining but it like makes critics and English teachers go, oh yes, this is very good, very good. It's like, this is boring and lame and dumb.
No, you don't understand. It's all about the subtext. What does that mean? It means whatever I want it to mean, and I can literally bend it to mean anything I want it to mean, even if it's literally the opposite of the author's intent.
You see, the ring refers to nuclear weapon. No,
it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Tolkien, no, he didn't.
Just stop.
He actually repeatedly in letters and correspondence with other people, other writers, other professors at that time, because, the guy was actually really, really, really well. He wrote a lot. He's reportedly said, or repeatedly, not reportedly, it is reported, that he hated subtext. If he wasn't going to say something, it's not going to be in the text. Basically, you're not going to be able to read between the lines for things. Anyways, so the project that I've been working on is Battle Heart Heat. It is actually something I probably brought up before. I cannot remember if I've actually specifically said it by name. As Snek has mentioned, he has actually quoted it a lot on the channel. Probably more than I have, to be perfectly honest. And before I really go into it, it's just kind of, I want to give the background for why I decided to do this. And in case you're not aware, I used to be a teacher for a little bit. And my main field that I was teaching was in reading, phonics, and literacy. I was teaching the little kids how to read, which clockwork, in case you're wondering, that's the reason why I keep, talking about your spelling, because that literally was what I was paid to teach for a while.
Plus, we're both grammar snobs, so that doesn't help his case any.
Yeah, I've been called the grammar Gestapo more than twice. So, I'd like to think that I'm a little bit better than that. I don't goose step anywhere, but, it is what it is.
It's a lot of effort to do that kind of thing.
Yeah. But I noticed when I was doing this that all the books that I had, that, because basically I was given a books for the curriculum. And it's like, if you're reading at this level, you'll read this. If you're reading at this level, you read that. And all of them are like My Pink Princess Unicorn, or, My Tea Time Date with Dracula, or something like that. It's always like very, very girly things. Little girls will do this, little boys will do that. Okay? This is not a judgment. This is just something that I, as someone who has had many little brothers and sisters, someone who has been around small children pretty much my entire life, is just something you kind of notice. Okay? This is not a cultural thing. This is just humanity is kind of hardwired into this type of thing. Like, at least for little boys, I can guarantee you that there is no secret class where they're like, all right, little Jimmy, we are going to subliminally brainwash you into loving monster trucks, dinosaurs, and, giant cannons. Later on, you are going to be brainwashed. We're going to evolve this brainwashing to, involve monster trucks, giant cannons, and, very, very scantily clad women. But that won't happen until you're about 10. So, yeah, get ready for that. We're going to have to do the level 2 then. At least not for me. I don't know. I mean, did they ever hit you with that brainwashing there, Professor?
Can't say they did, no.
So, anyways, I noticed that I had a lot of that. So I was like, well, I'm going to, if there is not a option, or if it's not available, necessity is the mother of invention. I'm going to do it myself. So I sat down, I banged out my first draft in about a month and a half. I realized very quickly that I was not going to actually write for the children that I was teaching. And I am now on like the 6th draft. Yay. Honestly, it is getting to the point where I'm pretty much going to be happy with it. And I'm going to go, be free, little manuscript, be free. I am so tired of working on you. I want to do anything else. I really want to do something else. And yeah. So, you're going to say something?
Nope.
Oh.
Proceed.
By all means. So, yeah, with that in mind, basically the entire thing with it is that it is, fundamentally, it is a story of a young man basically going out into the world. The young man is, his name is Manfred Krugelhauser, known as MC to his friends. And he is effectively thrust into this world. And while in this world, he's basically the center of this grand conspiracy of ancient powers and a lot of supernatural gobbledygook, aliens and gods and demons and all sorts of fun stuff. And yeah, basically he has to uncover this conspiracy. I have a pretty eclectic bunch of sources that I've drawn from. As I've stated earlier in numerous things, I have tried my hardest to not draw on anything earlier. But that being said, so I'm not going, and then what I mean by that is I'm not going to have, like, oh, we are the Eldrazi. Oh, so you're just space elves then? Yes. No, I don't do anything like that. I really don't like that. I think that's dumb. It is very reductive and not very imaginative. That being said, I suppose you could argue that, the fact that I draw heavily on nature and myth, a lot of my aliens are basically just Hammer horror movie monsters, but,
But Professor Dietaku, man, you have not introduced us to your alien races. I don't know why I went Doofenshmirtz with that one, but I did.
I was about to say, Doofenshmirtz wouldn't be entirely out of place.
That's true, actually.
Well, I suppose we should go over the 4 warrior races first.
Indeed.
You see, back in the olden times, about 500 years before, Manfred is thrust into this wider world of magic and monsters and aliens and power battles and all that. Oh, yes, by the way, it's basically power battles.
It's a shonen battle novel.
Effectively, kind of. Yes.
Basically.
500 years prior to that, a scholar wrote a book called the Treatise on the Warrior Races. Effectively, it was a screed complaining about the decline of his society, the Calorite Empire, and the threat borne by these 4 particular species to Calorite supremacy. And these 4, basically because of this book, have been elevated to near mythic status as, like, if you want to wage war in the greater, amongst the stars, you basically turn to these 4 species. Some of them have embraced this. Some of them have been persecuted because of it. Some of them don't care because they're 5,000-year-old space vampires. But so, that being said, the 4 are the Stakar, the Immortal Servants, the Amu. I forget what the Amu's title is.
I'm trying to remember because I actually thought the Amu was fascinating. And Kabar is best boy.
Immortal Cobras. There's Stakar, the Bloody Servants, the Wangoose, the Devouring Deer, the Amu, the Immortal Cobras, and of course, the Nyasi, or the Workers, the Mad Dogs.
That you might remember if you watched the Tabletopchi Brothers, as I made a Worker as a paladin.
Yes. And so, basically the entire thing with them is each of them are... They're effectively movie monsters, but as biological species. None of them are undead. None of them are, like, inherently magical, at least not in, like, the sense of magic that is known in that world. Do they have powers that are kind of magical in, like, a, that they do fantastical things? Oh, yes. But, I mean, nature kind of does that already.
Yep.
For instance, the Stakar are effectively beings that live in the vacuum of space that are vampires. They actually feed primarily on blood. They are these horrifying, incredibly gaunt-looking monsters in their usual forms. And they live to be incredibly old, about 5,000 years or so. So a lot of the stalkers that you will encounter are actually like hundreds, if not thousands of years old, and in the broad scheme of things, there's only been like 3 or 4 generations of stalker, because the stalker actually are effectively a servant race of the Calorites, or they were. The Calorites basically are entirely extinct by the point that the books happen.
Yes.
Then there's the Amu, who effectively are snake people. They're supposed to be like the mummy. And so you see them and they're usually wrapped up in these linen bandages, which will actually conserve their heat. And the entire thing with them is that they come from a sun-blasted world much closer to their sun than Earth is. And they have a society which is dominated by women. Their females actually are much larger on average than their males. And what will happen is they're
Go down to the comments now and leave your joke of choice here.
Basically, the entire thing is that they're akin to ball anacondas. They will have basically harems of men, and the Amu matriarchs will effectively wage war with each other over resources in order to propagate more men for their harems. And that's the reason why Best Boy Kabar decided to leave, because he's like, I'm not going to just die in this desert. And yeah. I actually think they're really fascinating too. The awesome thing about them is that they are incredibly difficult to kill, but they have a incredibly weak tolerance to water. Because water is such a rare thing on their world, it does not take much to make them either sick or to catch cold. And on top of that, they, once again, they are used to having a higher temperature, ambient temperature. So, if they're in the middle of the desert, it doesn't really bother them. But if they get doused in water and it causes them to catch a chill, that could very well kill them, just like on a regular day. So hence why they have their bandages. Then there is the wand goose, who I honestly thought were your favorites there, Professor.
Yeah, no, I would say they are.
They're supposed to be wendigos. They are deer people, effectively, who live in this giant forest world, effectively. It's called the Death World of Algon, and it's described as being cold, hard, and rocky, and just filled with predators that will kill you. And out of this, the wand goose, it basically rose to the top of the heap. And the way they did this is they can effectively eat anything, and if they will wear animal products, then they have a special lipid layer that will actually basically break down the it's called the Lehrman's organ. And the entire thing with it is that breaks down the genetic material of the animals in question and will actively give them these benefits, if there are any benefits. Because of this, though, their gestation for their babies is incredibly long, and it basically is incredibly painful for the mothers. And it also makes them look rather ghoulish because they're just, just really tall, scary people just covered in furs and bones. So even though they're not actually scary.
They're just misunderstood.
I mean, they will eat you. But,
I mean, if you give them proper provocation. But if you come with roses and chocolates, that's a different story.
Are you speaking from experience there, Professor?
My lawyers have advised me that I should not comment at this time. My legal team is just COG. And he was just like, nah, bro, this is a trap, don't do it.
And then there's the last, the Nyasi, or the workers. They are effectively werewolves. And they are interesting because they're the ones who have actually gone through the most changes. In the very, very original version of the story, they were effectively cat people. But as the story progressed and evolved, they became more werewolf-y, just to the point that they became effectively werewolves. And the entire thing with them is they are basically, I'm going to be real, they are the inverse of the Saiyans. Saiyans fight, they're always, I'm going to fight you one-on-one. And they're loners, and they don't really ever do teamwork. I'm sorry, Goku and Vegeta fans, but you guys, they're don't do teamwork. Whereas Nyasi will actually actively seek out and they're usually extroverted in terms of their personality types. They're very gregarious. They enjoy being around other people. They're very social. The thing being, though, is they are also a lot more empathic. And if things get agitated, they will actively get agitated too, to the point that they will lose control and just go on a rampage, which has kind of given them a bad reputation, on top of the fact that their effective stereotype of Nyasi is that they are effectively hair trigger exploding mercenaries who love the fight. And the reason for that actually is pretty funny because there is a reason for that stereotype. And the reason being is that the vast majority of the Nyasi that would go off a planet were part of these large mercenary companies formed by one particular royal house. There were 5 royal houses. And this one particular royal house was unique because it basically considered itself to be unequal to the main royal house, because in ancient times, effectively, their leader teamed up with the original emperor. And the two of them are like, I will join you in your cause, but, we will be equals. And the emperor's like, yeah, okay. And so they are, ever since then, been very proud and effectively have kept themselves like culturally apart from the rest of Nyasa society. And they're very individualist, and, they effectively, it's effectively Nyasi, Texas. Nyasi, Bavaria, Texas, effectively. And so, they would have these mercenary companies, which were designed specifically to go out and, fight and do things. And so when you hear about these, warrior werewolves, that's what people think of, because they never actually went back to their planet where they would have, just bakers and engineers and taxi cab drivers, and just there are actually other people there other than just, oh boy, I love to fight. It's just that, that's what people saw, which was honestly one of the things I really disliked about the way that Saiyan culture was described. And honestly, a lot of the problem I have with Klingon culture, where everything is, derived to be warriors, and it really don't go into the fact that, in order to have a warrior, you need to have, industry. In order to have industry, you need to have, resources, and where do you get those things? And we didn't really think about that because we just wanted to have space Spartans. And
yeah,
no one ever thinks about how Sparta was able to do that. And let me tell you, the reason they were able to do that, and it didn't even last that long, was because they effectively had just a buttload of slaves. But they don't go into that in the 300 because it's not cool and sexy. And, has Gerard Butler, shirtless going, this is Sparta. Sorry. History ran over. I really don't like that movie. I really do not like that movie. I don't understand why it was so popular, why it is still so popular. But that's neither here nor there. And so effectively, in this case, at this point in the story, the Nyasi are a persecuted breed. Something happened about 18 years ago, whereupon their homeworld just vanished. It was just disappeared. It's not there. People say something happened to it, but it's gone. And that's not the end of their species. I mean, there were plenty of people around. And honestly, actually, we later learned that there were actually other planets where Nyasi were, because, I don't know, should I go into that at all, Professor? What do you think?
I mean, we don't need to get too into the weeds if you don't want to.
Well, it is kind of a big spoiler. So
yeah,
it's not, them losing their home planet is not nearly as much of a danger to the overall species as we are initially led to believe. That being said, basically the rest of outer space is not entirely. They were like, oh, thank God, those guys are gone. Time to take care of the rest of them. And so, effectively, every single worker, every single Nyasi is a persona non grata. And they are persecuted, they're hunted down, and life is not good for them. Which is where, we get our deuteragonist, our heroine, Melina Bannon, or Melina's CA? I don't know. You know Chinese better than I do.
I'm not sure, because it would depend a little bit on the original spelling, because you're more likely to run into an SH sound than an S, as I understand it, but don't quote me like I know what I'm talking about.
I've heard it said xie or xie. But once again, I suppose that's whether or not you're doing Cantonese or effectively it's the southern province. So yeah, the way that it was just that I love this because Noodle, when I was first kind of brainstorming things, he was there with me, and he said this so simply. It was awesome. It's like, effectively, Melina is what would happen if you had little teeny tiny toddler Son Goku, and he was raised not by, effectively by Master Roshi, but by Ryuken, Master of Hokuto Shinken. That's effectively what she is. And yeah, so you have this teen girl who's got this really powerful, very, very gregarious personality. She doesn't really know what she is. She has this really powerful martial art. Shenanigans happen. And which is actually the reason why we get to Noodle's favorite character, and to a certain extent yours, Koala, who is her rival. who is actually human, and despite what you would think, because she's a beast woman. I'm just going to come out and say it. She's a beast woman. There are animal people. Yes, this is different from the aliens that we've encountered, kind of, but yes. And she is actually really cool because she is a prodigy of the supernatural martial arts that you encounter. And that way she is able to effectively go and keep pace with the other aliens and other supernatural power users that we encounter. That being said, she also has a hair trigger, and a lot of the more colorful expressions that you've heard Professor saying are effectively her just living things.
Yeah, right. The one that stands out in memory is at the very end of Digimon story, Cyber Sleuth. I was going to the confrontation on the roof where you actually battle Blue Box in his weird half-eater, half-human form. And I just randomly shouted, fight me, you cheater of bingo and backgammon. And I'm like, no one's going to get this, but I'm going to leave it here for when Dietaku watches the video and he'll get a kick out of it. And he did. But yeah, that was a direct reference to one of Koala's famous lines.
Yeah. I mean, she's not the only one. Like, everyone seems to love Mel's line of, are you an idiot or are you just stupid?
That's pretty good, though.
Which originally was supposed to be just, are you an idiot or are you just, like, clueless? But I don't know why I said it like that. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to keep it. And it basically is just, it's like, are you an idiot or are you just stupid? It's like, what?
Wait a minute. There's a problem here.
Yeah. There's Leo. I guess we could go over him.
Oh, yes.
Leo was just my comic relief character. I'll tell you a secret story there, ladies and gentlemen. He wasn't actually supposed to be a main character. In the original version of the story, he was effectively just there as a one-off villain to demonstrate the fact that Nyasi have the ability to transform if they see refracted light, which is to say, if they see light refracted into a rainbow, then they will transform into a effectively little like munchkin form. Is this a power up? Yeah,
like kinda. It does make them physically stronger, but it also makes their limbs much, much shorter. So there's your trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
And also, his original name was Fog Lion,
which is literally his entire thing was he could manipulate weather around him, and he's a lion man.
Yep.
Except that as literally, I went back and checked it as I was writing, like 2 paragraphs out of his original introduction, Fog Lion, Fog Lion, Fog Lion, Fog Lion, Fog Leo, and I just went through Fog Leo, and at which point, actually, both Arranger and Snek were like, hey, where's that Fog Leo guy? He was cool. And
we like him. Bring him back.
So I actually had him literally show up in the next scene. And they're like, and Fog Leo's there, and he's wondering why you guys haven't turned around. And so he literally was following them. That was my way of explaining why he was still around.
Man, you guys don't check behind you very often, do you? He is great.
He is great, and it literally because he just does not give a toss. He is in this school, in this university, of just magic and super power battles and everything, and he just does not care. Nothing phases him. He's just here to have a good time. And he's kind of bummed that his best friend isn't there anymore, but, you got to do what you got to do.
Life has to go on. Oh, did you guys know that I'm in the story. Yes, there's a man, a nerdy man named the Master, and it's basically me.
Oh, the Water Master, yes.
Yes, I got put in. I got put in as a minor footnote villain who basically does nothing, and I love it so much.
Oh, he does something. It's just his entire thing is basically supposed to be. It's not less about him being like the danger in that particular bit, more about the fact that he has this labyrinthine. He basically has a giant trap labyrinth. And so the entire thing is less about the Water Master being like a threat, more about the fact that he is like the complex he lives in is this horrifying trap labyrinth.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, these things move around and there's just traps everywhere and the entire building is basically dangerous.
I played Night Trap for keeps, baby.
Yes. So, but that's not till the second book, so...
Fair.
Yes. And yeah, you kind of did, turnabout's fair play, Dietaku.
That I did.
And I become a minor character in Wizards of Houston.
Yeah.
Although I don't know how minor I'm going to be.
That's a glass coffin situation. Remains to be seen.
Oof. I'm Snow White.
Well, not exactly, given that I literally make Malona your actual waifu, so there's that.
Well, which is funny, too, because as I recall, you actually have basically through comments that Nathan has made, also the fact that Section 17 has one of the people going through it is a Wangoose.
Yep.
We've effectively determined that both your story and mine operate in the same shared universe.
They do, even though that makes absolutely no sense. So our way of fixing this problem was everything is canon, especially the parts that contradict each other.
Mm-hmm.
There, problem solved.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so this is something I've been working on for almost 10 years now.
Yep.
Oh my God, it's been like 10 years.
the horror realization just dawns on him. It makes you feel any better. Wizards of Houston is almost 5.
Oh, jeez.
Yep. That's yeah, we started the prototypical form of that about 5 years ago now. Yes.
Trying to think, is there anyone else that... Oh, there's Winston.
Yes.
Who was another character that you really, really like.
He's fantastic. He's... okay, now, you guys got to understand, is he has a kind of a verbal tick, and it might be a little familiar, a little... You might understand this could possibly be an homage to another amazing character in a franchise y'all might be familiar with.
I don't know what you're talking about, huh?
I know, huh? So subtle and unclear as to whether he's breathing hard or saying a word, huh?
Yep. Which is even funnier because there actually are points where Winston is wheezing, and I wrote it out as ha ha. Yeah, this is just exacerbates the issue of we don't know if he's actually saying these things, if he's just breathing hard. We don't know.
Nope. There is no telling, and maybe it's better that way.
Yes, but he has one of the cooler powers. Honestly, I'd argue
he does.
He is not a fighter. His entire thing is effectively he is the stereotypical nerd. He loves computers. He basically had a weird science situation happen where because of the super advanced state of computing where he was, him being a weirdo and, hiding in his room all day, building his computer and literally, going, oh, I love you, computer. I want you to be the best girl you can be because I'm a nerd and I, personify my machines as female. And the computer goes, beep, boop, becoming best girl, and actually became best girl.
Huh. Not sure how I did that, huh?
Yes, but I suppose that's what happens when your computers are literally made out of colonies of cyanobacteria that are purposely built in order to process information.
Yep.
And so later on, when I was playing God Eater, and they're like, "Oh yes, the origami, but the Oracle cells," I'm like, "Mother, he stole my idea." Because the way the Oracle cells effectively is the way that Helby's gelcast structure works. The overall, composition of her cells hasn't changed any. It's just that her cells effectively all are like organizing, become human girl.
Waifu mode engaged.
So
please insert $49.99 for the Aerith Does Not Die DLC bundle.
Oof. Wow.
Gotta recoup all the losses Nomura's racking up.
That being said, Winston's entire thing is effectively, if he does enough math in his head, he can effectively rewrite anything that within the area around him. He can cause people to just immediately freeze. He can, alter something's composition. He can do all sorts of wacky stuff. The problem being is that effectively he is limited only by the fact that it takes from his stamina in order to do things. So being a sad, sickly nerd, he cannot do much, at least for not too terribly long.
He went outside for 24 hours and came back with a tan. That's how pale this man is.
Not just a tan. He actually also had a beard.
Oh, that's right. He grew his beard all of a sudden.
Yes, he had a beard and he had a deep olive tan. And yes, he starts talking about, "Oh, did you guys know? You can go to places and they in these brick and mortar buildings and they have goods and services there." Like, all right.
Is that true, Master? That's cool.
You've never gone outside before, have you?
Why would I do that, huh?
Called stores, Master. So, yes. I think that's all of the main cast. I don't know. Is there anyone else you think that we really should talk about?
No, like you said, that's pretty much the main core group of characters and the ones to be on the lookout for as you're reading.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of other interesting characters, and I have a lot of fun with it. For instance, there's Dr. Bannon.
Yep.
Manfred's teacher and / mentor, who actually is kind of softened. Originally, she was
kind of softened.
Yeah.
Like, she's really softened. Given that she was kind of in the first couple drafts, she was hard case is not a strong enough word to describe this woman.
But yes. And so she went from basically being a kind of a hard ass, so to speak, to now she's just kind of eccentric.
Yeah. That's fair to say.
An eccentric academic who has crap loads of children.
Many of which are adopted, to be fair.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get this taken care of so you all can read it. I'm really not doing this for money. Money is nice, but, it's more that I'd like to actually add to, pop culture rather than just the tapioca slop that we seem to be given.
Yeah.
That's really, really kind of where I'm coming from. It's we really need to add to things rather than just regurgitate the same slop. And that's kind of I was mentioning it to the professor the other day. It honestly is just wild to me that basically we got to like 1985 and like just pop culture stopped.
And now it's just looping.
Yeah, it's just, we're like the hamster and the wheel, just spinning, and just, it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. And we can never do anything new.
Yep.
This is my attempt to create something new, because there is creativity. The world is a wonderful place, but oh my God, there are only so many times that, we need to be like, oh man, guys, we need to go and watch Transformers. What's going to happen? Optimus Prime is going to die, but he'll come back. Oh,
okay. I mean, he does that every other week, so...
Oh, and after that, we're going to watch Spider-Man, the 15th reboot. Don't worry, Uncle Ben's going to die. Oh, good. I was worried that he was going to not,
I was worried that we'd actually let the poor fool go on for once.
Actually, honestly, at this point, I would be kind of, more surprised about, okay, I just had a crazy thought.
What's that?
Okay, right. So here's the thing.
All right.
Next Spider-Man reboot they need to do, this is what they need to do. This would make me go, no freaking way. Okay. Spider-Man is there. And, Uncle Ben's there, and he's like, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Right.
Okay, that plays out. Then they get to the point where there's the robber, and Peter Parker lets him go. And he shoots Uncle Ben, and Uncle Ben's like, oh. And so then later, when they're fighting, the Green Goblin or whatever, walks in another guy who's, oh my gosh, Uncle Ben, I thought you died. No, I survived because I'm actually a member of Weapon X or something else. Because he's actually a cyborg.
It's a Doombot.
He's actually a common writer. The emissary of hell.
Oh, geez.
Sony, you need to make this happen. If you do that, I would be like, no freaking way. This is awesome.
That would be way better than your attempts at making Morbius or a Venom cinematic universe.
So, yes.
That's for sure.
But they're never going to do that because, that would be entertaining. And Sony and entertainment
don't go hand in hand.
Yes. Well.
All right. I think that kind of brings us to our close for this week. So, I mean, you guys can look forward to Battleheart Heat coming soon, trademark, registered, LLC, all rights reserved, et cetera, et cetera.
I guarantee you it's going to happen sooner before season 2.
It'll come out before season 2 does. Yes. Yeah, thought crossed my mind. We'll see. Place your bets. Leave a comment down below. Will season 2 of the Tomodachi Bros podcast or Battleheart Heat debut first? You decide. And also, be sure to hit the like button if you liked it. Leave a comment telling us what you thought about how it sounds. You guys interested? You guys have any feedback or ideas, or you want anything you want to know more about? Let us know, and we'll see if we can answer some questions. Maybe we'll do a Q&A follow-up episode at some point. And, be sure to hit that subscribe button because it helps us out an awful lot. And I think that's all the shilling we need to do. So thank you, Master Dietaku, for joining me this fair evening.
It's my pleasure.
Awesome. And we will see you guys in the next one.
I'll be back.
Thank you for listening to the Tomodachi Brothers Review Podcast, produced and recorded by the Hipster Snek, Dietaku, and Cog. Sound design and editing by executive producer Sean Taylor Brown with Cog Sound Engineering. Music written and performed by Sean Taylor Brown with Costas Vaz of Core Insight Studio on the drums. We hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time.